Okay, take a look at this. On one side, we have a 150,000-year-old snail shell that was carefully crafted into an ornament, and on the other, a modern, highly sought-after luxury designer sneaker. Now you might be wondering, what in the world could these two vastly different objects, separated by literal millennia, possibly share? Well, they both actually represent the exact same human impulse, the drive to communicate our status, our identity, and our power through our attire. It turns out that signaling who we are through what we wear isn't some modern invention driven by social media. No, it's an ancient, universal constant of human psychology.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, I am incredibly excited to trace this massive journey with you. We're going to explore how the garments our ancestors wore evolved from basic, practical survival gear into the deeply complex social signals we navigate every single day. Because as you'll see, fashion is so much more than just fabric. It's a profound, universal language.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the prehistoric origins of beauty, move into imperial dress codes, then hit the industrial fashion shift, modern global luxury brands, and finally, wrap it all up with the universal language. Let's jump right in.
Part 1. Prehistoric origins of beauty. From practicality to aesthetics.
So the archaeological record is kind of like a giant puzzle, but it tells us, through tools used for gathering animal pelts and, surprisingly enough, by tracing the evolutionary age of clothing lice, that humans have actually been wearing clothes for over 300,000 years. Now initially this was purely for warmth and protection, right? Just basic survival. But we didn't stop there. Look at how rapidly our ancestors transitioned from simply throwing on an animal pelt to formalizing their rank with intricate ornaments. I mean, by 150,000 years ago, early humans were actively taking the time to craft snail shells into jewelry. Fast forward to about 100,000 years ago, and we see complex burial rituals at the Tin Shemet site. And by the 2600s BC in ancient Mesopotamia, we're seeing the clear, deliberate use of precious metals. The jump from mere survival to communicating status is incredibly distinct.
Now I want you to focus on this number for a second. 500. That's the specific number of basalt pebbles discovered at that 100,000-year-old Tin Shemet burial site in modern-day Israel. Researchers speculate these were actually used as jewelry-like decorations. To put that into perspective, this highlights the incredible, ancient scale of early ornamentation. Think about it. Tens of thousands of years before anyone even invented the wheel, humans were already using these items, in life and in death, to indicate their social value to the group.
Moving on to Part 2, Imperial dress codes, legally enforced hierarchies.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how things shifted as human tribes grew into massive, complex civilizations. Displaying your rank through clothing wasn't just a matter of personal wealth anymore. It actually became a legally regulated uniform. Over in ancient Rome, you couldn't just throw on a toga. It was reserved strictly for citizens. And within that, the toga praetexta, which had this distinctive purple border, was legally restricted to magistrates and freeborn boys. The heavily embellished doga picta was saved exclusively for victorious generals and emperors. Meanwhile, over in Imperial China, the rules were just as intense. During the Tang Dynasty, the colors yellow and gold were legally reserved for the emperor and the imperial family. Later on, the Qing Dynasty actually mandated by law who could wear a dragon motif, the exact number of embroidered symbols allowed on a court robe, and even the precise shade of an official silk. The ruling elite literally used fashion law to visually separate themselves from common citizens.
But, you know, it wasn't just the massive, highly structured empires doing this. Neighboring cultures and later eras found their own completely unique luxury items to display wealth and class. On the left, we've got Gaulish gold torques from around 480 BC. These were heavy, very expensive gold necklaces worn by the elite Gauls. On the right, we jump over to 17th century Elizabethan England, where nobles wore these massive, expanding neck frills called ruffs. And the rule of thumb in Elizabethan society? Basically, the closer your neckwear resembled a massive dining plate, the higher your status. No joke. But here is where things get really fascinating. This entire historical system of visual hierarchy relies on one absolutely crucial thing: scarcity. Hand-dyed purple borders, intricate gold necklaces, massive ruffs, they were all incredibly hard to make and really expensive to buy. So, what happens when exclusivity can suddenly be mass-produced? How does a society adapt its status signals when rare items become accessible to basically everyone?
Which brings us to Part 3, the industrial fashion shift and breaking the old rules.
This is a complete historical pivot. The Industrial Revolution and the explosion of global trade totally shattered those old imperial dress codes. The strict, legally enforced lines that used to separate cultures, countries, and social classes, they began to aggressively blur. Step 1, the mass production of clothing meant that intricate designs and quality fabrics were no longer restricted just to the ultra-rich who could afford private tailors. This paved the way for Step 2, the emergence of global fashion brands that established new universal trends. And Step 3, with easy multinational distribution, these trends could cross borders pretty much overnight. Industrialization fundamentally transformed fashion from a system of isolated, legally enforced cultural rules into shared, international trends.
And the speed of this cultural blending is just staggering. At first, the global standard was totally dictated by Parisian haute couture, and then later by the rise of American sportswear. But look at how these trends actually spread. First, the idea slowly disseminated through print magazines, then they sped up massively through television, and today, literally instantly, by the internet. These mediums have effectively blended the worldwide world of fashion into a single globalized entity where everyone is looking at the exact same trends at the exact same time.
That takes us to part 4, modern global luxury brands, the new status symbols.
So, the crucial point is this. The days of legally reserved royal colors and forbidden silks are long gone. But that underlying human impulse to display our status, that hasn't gone anywhere. In fact, in a crowded global society, it might be stronger than ever. On the left, we have that early ornamental gold torque from 480 BC. On the right, a contemporary premium watch. Now, we might look at the ancient Gaul wearing a heavy ring of gold around their neck and brush it off as ancient history. But a modern luxury accessory serves the exact same psychological function today. We use these premium brands to indicate our class, our wealth, our popularity, and our place in the social hierarchy. The technology changed for sure, but the human brain, not so much.
Because of this extreme globalization, status is no longer isolated to a single empire or city. Today, think about a teenager in Lagos, another in Seoul, and a third in São Paulo. They might all reach for the exact same sneaker brand, follow the same designers on social media, and participate in the exact same viral fashion trend, literally all within the same week. Modern designer brands serve as the ultimate, universally understood visual cues for popularity and economic power in our highly connected world.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our final section, the universal language, a human constant.
We've traveled from prehistoric caves to Roman senates to modern hyper-connected cities, which brings us to this perfectly captured thought from our source material today. Fashion remains a universal language used by humanity to communicate social hierarchies across every era. It is so deeply true. Whether we're trying to survive the elements in carefully chosen animal pelts, showing off our Roman citizenship in a toga praetexta, or lining up for the latest premium watch drop, fashion is, and absolutely always has been, how we display our identity, our group, and our status to the people around us.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of mind-bending question to ponder. We've seen how our status symbols evolved from 150,000-year-old snail shells into mass-produced, globally recognized luxury sneakers. Human nature basically guarantees we will always seek to show our rank. So as technology and society continue to accelerate at warp speed, what will we wear to signal our rank tomorrow? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.